and they feel like Saudi has a lot of power. Saudi has the ability. If they were to move, it feels like the Ummah would follow. How do we make MBS burn? How do we make him hurt? Maybe we should boycott Hajj and Umrah.
Normalizing relations with the ones who are fighting Mujahideen in Palestine. Who's on the right side of history now? Who's greater in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
They're rebelling against the state. Shouldn't he be up for execution? It just sounds so secular when they are the symbol of Islam.
How? How can you be Islamic if you're a servant to the ones who occupy the Muslim world? You literally work for the kuffar.
And before we begin, I have a small request. Please like, comment and subscribe. It helps us to grow. Now, we are in the days of Dhul Hijjah, and it's befitting for us to talk about Hajj. But we can't talk about Hajj without talking about Saudi. So, I want to ask you, why do people love Saudi? Do people think that they are our rulers?
Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I'm not sure that people do like Saudi. I think there are some people who... There's people who are aligned to Saudi Arabia, and there's others who respect Mecca and Medina, which happen to be in Saudi Arabia. And by virtue of that, the Saudis are the ones who organize Hajj and Umrah. So there's a lot of respect and deference given to the Saudis from that regard. And over the years, there's obviously more that's happened. Printing of the Quran and funding mosques around the world. So there's a special place, which it really just comes down to Mecca and Medina in reality. And if the Saudi government hadn't taken over Mecca and Medina in the 1920s, whichever government instead would probably have that same kind of respect now.
Yeah, but there's a sense in this ummah, and even outside this ummah, when you ask someone which country represents Islam, the first country that comes to people's minds is Saudi.
Yeah.
You can see with moon sighting, whether it's this Eid or the Eid before, like the real question is, are you following Saudi? It seems like Saudi is the leader for this ummah. There must be some connection. It's not just, oh yeah, Saudi's got some special moon observatory.
No, it's because of Mecca and Medina. That's literally it. It's because of Mecca and Medina that people defer to Saudi Arabia. They organize Hajj, so obviously everyone's hostage to their Dhul Hijjah anyway. So Ramadan as well. This is over time. This is over generations. It's built up that kind of rapport amongst the ummah. And it's not about the Saudi regime. Like I said, if they didn't take over Mecca and Medina in the 20s, whoever else, it's very likely that they would have become the reference point. They were really irrelevant before then. Yeah,
but just them hosting Mecca and Medina doesn't necessarily mean people ascribe themselves to the political leadership.
Yeah, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying the whole example of Saudi Arabia becoming first to your mind of an Islamic state, this image of being the center of Islam is because the center of Islam is Mecca.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's why.
But under the Ottoman state, would people still look to Saudi?
Under the Ottoman state?
On the Ottoman state.
When the Saudis were a small rebelling clan.
We'll come to that, but when Saudi was still part of the Uthmani Khilafah.
Okay.
So, not Saudi, sorry, the Hijaz.
Okay.
Sorry, the Hijaz, sorry. The Hijaz was still part of the Khilafah. Would people look to the Hijaz, the government in Hijaz, or would the people look to the government in the Uthmani Khilafah?
The government was in Istanbul, though.
And that's my point. So just because... Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
The custodian of the two holy places, Khadim al-Haramain Sharifain, is the
Sultan was in Istanbul.
Yeah, the title of the Khalifas of in Istanbul.
And in terms of our older generation, maybe my dad, your dad, they look to Saudi more than just Mecca and Medina. They look to them as like King Faisal, if you remember. King Faisal was like a beacon of light for this ummah. It was hope for this ummah.
My granddad's time, bro.
Okay, yeah, but there's this special connection. Like I'm Pakistani, so are you, to be fair. Like the Pakistani community especially, they hold King Faisal in high regard. And they feel like Saudi has a lot of power. Saudi has the ability, if they were to move, it feels like the ummah would follow.
Right, so King Faisal invested in Pakistan.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
King Faisal Mosque,
King Faisal Mosque, and they renamed the whole city after him.
Oh yeah, Faisalabad.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Damn.
But obviously he stands out amongst the kings of Saudi Arabia with the boycott, the oil embargo.
In 70s.
in the 70s, yeah, 73, in the war between Egypt and Syria on one side and the Zionists on the other side. So during that war, the Saudis enforced an oil embargo, which hurt the West, more so Netherlands, Britain, European economies, but it did hurt the USA as well, lesser extent. But yeah, so that was a big event. That he actually took such a massive stand, utilizing the only real strength the Arabian Peninsula has materially, which is the oil. And during his time was also the beginning of the funneling of mujahideen through Pakistan to Afghanistan to fight the Soviet Union. So, in terms of as a figure and amongst the kings of Saudi Arabia, he stands out because in that period is very active in terms of these stances, which involved Pakistan a lot, plus investments in Pakistan.
So King Faisal, would you, at that time, and even now, to be fair, some of these new kings, would you consider them to be our rulers?
Well, Saudi Arabia is a nation state, so they only rule Saudi Arabia. But maybe looking at them as the leaders of the Islamic world, a lot of people have ascribed that to them. No, I think that's not even a title which they sought themselves. I mean, in the Arab world, we used to call it the sleeper kingdom, because it was just asleep. It did nothing since like its establishment in 1932, and just nothing happened. And then all of a sudden, he woke up in 1973. It wasn't really relevant. It wasn't involved in doing anything. And then all of a sudden, it started to get involved in things around the world. But that coincided with other things, the Cold War and the United States of America's involvement with the Saudis and the giving them like a protectorate status and weapons deals, and we might talk about this later on, petrodollar agreement, all these kind of things. So there was like a spiritual leadership given to the Saudis because of Mecca and Medina,
but not political.
But politically, no. It's like until recently, honestly, until Mohammed bin Salman didn't attempt to play a big role beyond, like outside of itself, the Gulf, and a bit on Palestine. Wasn't really involved.
All right, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Yeah, who is Saud and does he own Arabia?
Just going by the name. Saudi's Arabia. No, so Ibn Saud is like the name of the clan. This is common in Saudi Arabia, where they name the clan by like his father, and then Ibn, son of, becomes like a last name. So the founder of the third iteration of Saudi Arabia, the current one, is Abdul Aziz bin Saud. Bin Saud is just a family name. So it's a clan that was in the Najd area in Arabia. They came to prominence in the 18th century.
So you said this is the third iteration.
Yeah.
So this is going back to the first.
Yeah, the first iteration in the 1700s, where they started on a war path in Najd and then expanded Hijaz, Yemen, Iraq, Syria, and other places, ostensibly in order to spread Tawheed and to fight Shirk.
And who was the government at the time?
Government where?
For the Muslim world.
Oh, it was the Uthmani Khilafah.
So they were part of the Uthmani Khilafah.
They attacked the Uthmani Khilafah. So the arrangement the Ottomans had with the clans and the tribes that were living in the Najd area specifically and further south is that they would have, obviously by deen, legally, shar'an, is that they can only be one Khalifa. So they would have nominal allegiance to him, which at that time practically meant don't declare yourself Khalifa kind of thing. But they weren't directly governed. However, Zakah was actually still organized. It was deputized to one of the tribes in is Al Shamar, I think it was, in the north. It will be north of where the Saudis are. And they would just gather Zakah every year.
So they were governed by the Khilafah, by the Ottomans, and then you're saying they rebelled.
Yeah, so this is the thing. They will contest they were ever governed because there was no direct authority. But whether there was a practical extension of the authority or not, regardless, there was one shar'an, one legitimate authority that already existed, and they hadn't rebelled against it until bin Saud decided that he wanted to expand, and he found an ally in an exiled scholar from Iraq, Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab, who found in Ibn Saud someone who was willing to adopt his ijtihad and his quote unquote madhab. So yeah, under that with that alliance, the one providing the legitimacy for the other one, saying with this da'wah for tawheed and eradicating shirk is carried out by this clan, this leadership. On the other side, him helping this island to spread his ideas. This is what gave birth to Saudi Arabia as a movement. Obviously, over time, Ibn Abdul Wahhab and his family, they became less important because the Saudis were using them. And yeah, so they had the first rebellion and it was crushed, and they had the second rebellion and it was crushed, and this is the third one. And the third one they got.
So let me just clarify one sec. So the first rebellion, the first state, 1700s, you have Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. This is the founder of the Wahhabi movement, the Salafi movement today, yeah?
Yeah.
And then on the other side, you have the Ibn Saud family.
Yes.
So these two teamed up together and rebelled against the Ottomans, the legitimate Islamic authority at the time.
Yes, more or less, yeah.
And then from then, you're saying they rebelled, they gained land, and then?
It was put down, the rebellion.
By the Ottomans.
Yeah, by the Ottomans, yeah.
And then the second time, go on.
Same thing, although I'm not sure if the second time they actually met an actual Ottoman army as opposed to they were just put down by the tribes allied to the Ottomans in the area. Like I said, Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab had passed away, I think, before they hit any of the towns which were directly under Ottoman rule, like Mecca and Medina. Ta'if, these were under direct Ottoman government.
This is slightly a tangent, yeah, but they're rebelling against the state. Shouldn't he be up for execution? Ibn Saud and Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. I know it's a controversial question, but Shara'an, from our Sharia, you rebelling against the state and you trying to bring a new authority.
Yeah.
You're challenging the Khalifa.
Yes, challenging the Khalifa obviously is haram, but there is a process to it. Because the hukum is baghi. And that rebellion and the first step in baghi.
Rebellion, yeah? Baghi.
Yeah, but this is like the fiqhi term for it. This is the crime being committed. And the first step in dealing with it is to seek a peaceful resolution, is to sit down with the rebels, find out what the issues are, and try to find that peaceful resolution. This is what Ali bin Abi Talib attempted with Muawiyah very famously, like the first.
Mm-hmm. So there's a process
of this.
I'm going to make a mad analogy.
And if they carry on, obviously, afterwards, and as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, when there's two factions from the believers fight, then try to fix between them, try to get them to resolve. But if one carries on the transgression afterward, then all of you unite and fight that one. So it's not as like simple. Oh, he rebelled, cut his head off kind of thing. There's still a process. But
I might get some haters for this statement, yeah. But it sounds like the analogy I wanted to make is that it's like, you know how you have a marriage, and you have a child outside of wedlock. It's like an illegitimate child.
What?
Just hear the example, yeah? You understand, yeah? Illegitimate child, yeah? When let's say a man and a woman commit zina.
I know what an illegitimate child is.
Yeah.
What are you saying?
What I'm saying is, it sounds like the Saudi state is a bit like that because it's made from haram, it's made from khuruj, in a sense. It's made from rebellion. Do you get what I'm saying? It's like
I don't get the analogy, but yeah, it was born in khuruj, yeah. Khuruj against the Khalifa. Obviously, from their perspective.
What I'm trying to say is a illegitimate child will always have problems in their life. And Saudi as well. No? Am I making a bit of a jump? You're not seeing what I'm seeing?
Okay, so the Saudis, yes, the Saudis, they attacked other Muslims. They attacked tribes that were directly aligned, as in they were more clearly allied with and under the authority of the Ottoman Khilafah, who were given tasks and titles by the Khilafah. And eventually they did expand, although this was after Ibn Abdul Wahhab's passing, to towns which were directly under Ottoman governorship, like Mecca and Medina and these areas. And they slaughtered hundreds, maybe thousands of people. I'm not sure of the numbers. Some people have tried to done research on this, but it's difficult to get like an exact number of how many people they killed, but it was lots of people. The excuse they had is they were fighting shirk and everyone there was actually a murtad and therefore the blood is halal.
Damn.
But no, that doesn't give them the authority to do that, because even with a murtad, there's still a process to go through. You can't just I declare you're murtad, I will now kill you. That's not how it works.
So, I don't want.
But that's from their perspective.
Hmm.
And yeah, was there shirk and was there of course there was.
Yeah.
There's a lot of nonsense that's happened in our history.
A lot of it was due to ignorance.
For the masses, it's ignorance. Yeah, but there are people who build up a following they become popular through using the deen, isn't it? Which the Saudis eventually started doing themselves anyway.
No, I don't want to get into Wahhabism and Salafism yet. But let's talk about Ibn Saud just quickly. There's a lot of talk, especially in the Pakistani community. Hear me out. There's a lot of talk about him being a direct British agent.
Ibn Saud.
Ibn Saud.
Oh,
I know
no,
this.
that, bro.
I
You're
know
talking
this
about Ibn
talk.
Abdul Wahhab,
I know
bro.
there's talks about Ibn Abdul Wahhab. Let's leave that to the side. Ibn Saud. Is he a confirmed agent of the British?
Are you talking about the founder of the first state?
The
or
first state in the
the-
1700s.
Um,
Al Saud. Yeah.
So there was.
Be honest, innit? Your honest opinion.
I'm not sure. I've read those who say he did get support from the British, and others say that unconfirmed. But
But correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't there like transcripts between the British and Al Saud in the British Library?
I've seen those for the third state,
The third state.
Abdulaziz bin Saud,
The
the
first.
founder of the current state of Saudi Arabia.
Mhm. So first one we don't know. Okay, let's go to the third one then. The third one. He is the descendant of
It's the same clan.
same clan.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the third state. So you're saying the British had direct contact.
Absolutely, 100%. And this is absolutely definitely confirmed. The current state of Saudi Arabia was founded by the British Empire. 100%. This is fact. There's anyone who disagrees with this is asleep. Does not understand. They had there's a treaty for it. Other countries, they just gave independence. They worked with some people. There's an actual treaty which they signed for the creation of the protectorate of King Abdulaziz.
And the
It
Uthmani
wasn't-
Khilafah
yeah.
was still here.
It's part of World War One. The rebellion during World War
Early
First World
19th,
War.
early 20th century, yeah? 100% confirmed agent.
Absolutely.
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 So, Ibn Abdul Wahhab,
That's
yeah?
like 300 years ago.
His family, they called the Ash-Sheikhs, yeah?
Al Sheikh, yeah.
Was he involved in this as well? Sorry, not him, but his family. Was he involved in this?
Yeah, they're part of the political setup of Saudi Arabia.
So they separated the political authority and the religious authority.
Yeah.
Kind of like a secular state.
He is a secular state. It's a religious state. That's not Islamic though. Saudi Arabia is a religious state. That's fine.
So how does that
But Islam is
dynamic work? I know it's a bit of a tangent. How does that dynamic work that you have the Islamic country of Saudi Arabia, but you've separated political authority and religious authority? It just sounds so secular when they are the symbol of Islam.
So this kind of behavior is like a symptom of the time. It's not unique to the Saudis.
Okay. Explain.
All Muslim countries behave like that. All of them. So all the other ones that claim to be Islamic as well, Sudan and Iran, Pakistan, even those that didn't claim to be Islamic states, but they uphold Sharia in the law and the constitution, Egypt and others, is they have the same setup, which is the religion is a ministry. There's a ministry for that. But even the Ottoman state, right towards the end, started behaving in this way. This is due to European influence, Western influence.
So this third state, Ibn Saud, British agent, made the state with the British. I know there was a lot more actors involved in this, yeah?
Yeah.
So this was a project of the British. And then even up until now, we can say that the British are involved. And adding another question, the first initial question, who owns Arabia?
The United States of America is the answer to that question very simply. So Abdulaziz bin Saud wanted to expand his clan power again. And he found in the British an ally. And the British found in him someone who can break...
Against the Ottomans.
Yeah, and the British found in him someone who can break the eastern flank of the Ottoman Khilafah, south of Iraq, which is where they were trying to get a beachhead there from India, the British army from India, and they were getting resistance from the locals, a lot of tribes over there, and Saud being nudged in that area, and what's his name, Sharif Hussein, Banu Hashim
In Mecca.
in Mecca, They were the two wings of the British project in
Separate.
separate to each other, and they fought each other as well afterwards.
So they're separate. So the British made separate agreements.
And different promises to either.
And who won?
Well, they promised the Jews something as well, and they promised other people other things. And the British won at the end.
So what did
The system wins.
so
The game wins.
Ibn Saud got Arabia as we know it.
Ibn Saud got what is now Saudi Arabia, but that's not what he was aiming for initially. He wanted all of Arabia.
So the Muslims.
And Sharif Hussein was promised everything from Yemen to Syria, and he didn't get any of that.
So let's get this straight. The Muslims in Arabia, you have Ibn Saud on one side, you have Sharif of Mecca on the other side, both Muslims, both making deals with the British against the Ottoman Khilafah. And at the end of it, the British won.
Of course. It's divide and conquer.
And they didn't see it. And even now, when Sharif of Mecca...
Oh, no, it's not didn't see it. It was, I think Sharif of Mecca might have been stupid because he believed he was going to be made Khalifa by the British. I don't think Abdulaziz didn't even believe the Ottomans were a valid Khalifa. They believed at that time, this is the common belief amongst them at that time, even though some of them have changed their opinions now, is that only the first 4 Khalifas were valid. So as far as he was concerned, that's one kingdom, this is my kingdom. There's no that's how he viewed it. It was his was definitely a malicious attempt to break the Ottoman Khilafah. While the Sharif Hussein was a malicious attempt to take the Khilafah for himself.
So they were Kharijis.
They were Khawarij.
In the linguistic sense.
In the linguistic sense, yeah, they were Khawarij. Linguistic.
Look, the British, you said they made a lot of promises, and they made promises to the Jews, right?
Yeah.
Now, on this topic, in terms of, in this current climate today, we are talking about boycotting Zionism and boycotting everything that comes from the Zionist state. Question to you. Should we boycott MBS?
How do you boycott MBS?
In terms of everything that is happening in Saudi, in terms of Vision 2030, in terms of him hosting concerts, Shakira, and other questionable celebrities are coming in, and just spreading, just corruption in the land. Really, should we not even go into the country when it comes to Umrah and Hajj?
Oh, so
Yeah,
you're talking about boycott MBS as in don't give any money
Because
to Saudi Arabia.
MBS
that includes, you're saying that includes
because
not paying for Umrah and Hajj.
because
not going to
because
Hajj.
the discussion
Boycotting Hajj.
because the discussion now is that look, MBS or his dad holds the title of the custodian of the 2 holy mosques.
Yes, that's the king's still alive, yeah.
And he is doing all of this with this title. And he knows that he has the Hijaz, he has Mecca and Medina as a fail-safe that regardless of what he does, people will still come to Saudi. And now I know that there's some talk about this, whether it's in the scholarly community or just within the Ummah, that how do we make MBS burn? How do we make him hurt? And one solution put out there is that maybe we should boycott Hajj and Umrah.
Well, if you wanna appreciate this opinion, then first we have to understand on the one side, let's say the people who are against boycott is the significance of Hajj and the obligation of Hajj. So wajib, everyone has to do it at least once in their lifetime, so long as they have the means to do it. It's very expensive now. So how can that ever be counted? You don't say, I'm going to boycott Salah, I'm going to boycott fasting because of something political that's going on.
MBS, he knows this. He holds the power
hand,
of this.
Yeah, so
how do we make him burn?
So wait, so I'm saying there's it's not an easy matter because Hajj is the 5th pillar of Islam. It's not a joke. And on the other side is what have these guys been doing?
The Saudi government.
Yeah, it's not just about concerts and buying Newcastle United Football Club and having those MMA fights, and it's not just that. It's the blood of Yemen is on their hands. It's normalization with the Zionists. That was happening just before the 7th of October. Let's not forget. Yeah, they were just on the verge, and that's on the table again now. It's the way they used, exploited, and betrayed the Mujahideen that they sent to Afghanistan and Chechnya and other places. It's the sectarianism they've called, the blood that was shed between not just Sunnis and Shia, but also between Madahib themselves, because they go through phases, and each phase they utilize their position
Mm.
and the respect people give them for being the center of Islam and scholarly learning and so on and so forth, to stoke sectarian hatred for political aims, to dividing between different madhahib, dividing between obviously the Sunnis and the Shia, and not solving the problem. No, they're trying to resolve issues. They're just trying to cause war. And the support for the Americans in the Iraq war, not one of them, all of them.
It seems like you're making the argument that you should boycott them,
So
though.
the point is this, yeah. The role of the Saudi state, ignoring everything that's within the Saudi state, they produce copies of the Quran, they organize Hajj. This is a satellite. This is a protectorate. It's a forward base for the United States of America, like it was for the British Empire before. It switched because the British Empire became weak and poor, and the Americans gave them weapons, and the Americans signed a petrodollar agreement with them, and they decided to make the entire world hostage to the dollar for the sake of the USA, and then use those dollars, which they get from the oil sales, to buy American weapons. The US is just recycling its dollars. And all they've done is just help the Americans. They sent the Mujahideen to Afghanistan not for Islam, but because the USA wanted to keep the Soviets out. And when the USA decided that they needed a reason to attack Afghanistan, the Saudis were the first to sell them out. So yeah, those are terrorists. Yeah, and they joined the Americans in the war on terror. So it's the fact that the Saudi government has always been a puppet for Western imperialism. That's what its role is. Everything else is stuff they've just been given the space to do. Like, we don't care if you run Hajj, we don't care if you I don't know, what you call it, print copies of the Quran. It doesn't really matter. But can you use all the institutions that you've built around the world and all the connections you've made with students who come to Medina University to get people pumped up to do jihad against the atheist communists? Yes, okay, go send them to Afghanistan. Okay, can you now declare all of these people Khawarij and extremists? Yeah, okay, do that, please. Yeah, through the same network that they built up. Again, all utilizing
for American goals, really.
Yeah, all for American goals. And then now the USA decided the time's passed for this. Now time's passed. Now it's time for liberalization fully. All of this using Islam stuff is in the past. MBS comes and starts to undo all of these things.
He wants to make Miami, in Saudi.
The line and Yemen, all these kind of things. And he decommissioned the Department of Enjoying the Good for Being the Evil, and at the same time set up the Ministry of Entertainment, which is run by Turki al-Sheikh, the descendant of.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
SubhanAllah.
So all these MMA fights and the concerts and buying Newcastle United and all these kind of things, all of this is again part of the American vision for Saudi Arabia. The Saudis went to them saying, "Oh, we want to improve our economy," and they went to McKinsey, the consultancy, and they just gave them
Vision 2030.
more or less. Vision 2030 is almost a copy paste of what McKinsey came up with.
Over the last few years, we've seen the Ummah's money buying players like Ronaldo, Neymar, the Newcastle Football Club. A lot of this is coming from money made from Hujjaj. And then bringing in what one scholar said from Libya, I believe. He was saying that we should boycott Hajj and Umrah. I know it's an outrageous thing.
No. He said if you've done it once, then don't do it a second time, because now you just give me the money.
Oh, because you have to respect.
So he's saying you've done the wajib.
Yeah.
You've done the wajib. Don't go again. That's what he's saying. He didn't say. I know he did say it's haram to go again. I think that's what he said.
But they're
what he cited was
what
they've done in Yemen. Again, just for the United States. And the USA was involved in that. People forget the USA set up a command center
in Yemen.
Yeah, in Yemen, where they organized what the Americans, what the Saudis and the Emiratis were doing there.
And then Sudan?
In Sudan, there's a lot to explain, but yeah, they're involved in Sudan again, just as like
Libya.
Yes, for the Americans. Yeah, that's what the Saudi government does. That's its role, and they will use Islam to justify killing Sufis because they're mushriks, and then later on use Islam to say, oh no, that's extreme and we're moderate now, and then they will use Islam for other things. It's like the ultimate example of exploiting Islam for political gains, which not even their own.
So would they even claim themselves to be an Islamic state?
I don't know if MBS likes that term now, but before, yes, they used to say that when they had to pretend to be Islamic.
And now there's no resemblance of Islam in there.
You know, so it's gradual, isn't it? Because what MBS has realized is there is pushback, there's resistance. So he's obviously gone through a process similar to what Ataturk did in Turkey, in terms of like stripping Islam completely of the country forcefully. But he's still going through a phased approach. It's not like as radical as what Ataturk did, Mustafa Kemal did in a shorter period of time. Perhaps with more aggression. But he's doing the same thing. But he's realized there is resistance. And that's why he went back, like when before he wasn't allowed to mention Palestine. Even the Imam of the Haram can't mention it. Because the Imam of the Haram, Mecca, Medina, they're just employees of the Saudi government. They say whatever they want. And Sudais was going around talking about multi-faith, interfaith nonsense, and them alongside the UAE talking about this Abrahamic faith, all Abrahamic.
Yeah, but they still are.
But since then, since the 7th of October, he's allowed dua for Palestine again. Why? Because he's realized there's pushback.
But look, at the end of the day, we realize that Saudi is still, they hold the title of the custodian of the two holy mosques. They have obviously the birthplace of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they implement the hudud. Like they have a reason to call themselves an Islamic state.
Yeah, they used to implement the hudud. It's there still in the letter of the law, but Salman's not implementing the hudud.
So you're telling me that the scholars today wouldn't even make a claim that they're Khilafah?
Khilafah? No, they never made the claim in the first place. They didn't even believe in that idea in the first place. They never did.
But they implement the hudud.
That's a part of Islam.
Yeah.
Other countries have parts of Islam in them as well. The inheritance laws of Islam are implemented in Egypt. Egypt's an Islamic state now. Sudan, I think, has more. Again, legally, as in letter of the law, more inclusions of Sharia laws than all the Muslim countries, apart from Saudi Arabia. Although I've read the constitution, it's kind of vague, the Saudi constitution. But just having bits of Islam is not Islam. It's just bits of Islam. That's what it is. It's just bits of Islam.
So then what's the best way to make Arabia great again?
Make Arabia great again.
You know
what Umar al-Khattab said about the Arabs. We were people who were disgraced. As talking about the Arabs, we were disgraced people. And then Allah honored us. He raised us through Islam. And if we were to leave Islam or turn back against Islam, then Allah will disgrace us again. So it's that simple, really. It's any people will only be great as their ideas are. They got good ideas, they'll behave good. They have stupid ideas, they'll behave stupid. And it's that simple, isn't it? So when you're talking about governments and societies, it's more broader. You're talking about a system of thought, an ideology or a philosophy, something more than just one or two ideas. And Islam is that. It's a deen, it's a complete way of life. It has answers for everything. So when they abandoned Islam, and I'm saying the Saudis obviously never adopted it in the first place. They only adopted parts of Islam. They never ran their kingdom.
So categorically, you're saying they're not Islamic?
Absolutely. Oh, of course not. Of course not. How? How can you be Islamic if you're a servant to the ones who occupy the Muslim world? You literally work for the kuffar.
They are, to be fair, you were telling me this last time, that they are a founding member of the UN.
Yeah, founding member of the UN.
Ratifying
the UN Charter.
What does it mean to be part of the UN in terms of law, in terms of Sharia? If you do implement Sharia and you are part of the UN, then
they'll go into semantics, obviously, but yeah, it means affirming the UN Charter and its laws
over the Sharia.
Yeah, obviously, some countries obviously don't. They're not the only ones, but some countries also ignore some parts of the UN. But yeah, the idea, this is the most important one, which is like you can't have any ikhtilaf on it, is principle of the United Nations, is the sovereignty of nation states. Every country that's a member of the UN has fixed borders, and it respects the borders of the others. These are permanent borders. Now, some of them obviously have disputes with each other, and these disputes should be resolved diplomatically amongst them. But the principle is still the same. Their borders are fixed. This is my country, that's your country, and there's there are very few things which are so clearly antithetical to Islam in the structure of the state, in its constitution, as opposed to, oh, maybe they made a mistake here and there in branch laws. This is fundamental. That completely just negates it being an Islamic state. It can't be an Islamic state if you are literally saying, I have cancelled jihad.
They're just like, it's not even part of their constitution, you're saying.
It's a nation state.
And on top of that, they're killing Muslims.
Yeah, for who?
Yeah.
And at least be for yourself. It's not even for themselves.
Do you think they should lose the title of the custodian of the two holy mosques? Of their whole shenanigans with Israel, in Yemen, in Libya.
So
They got blood on their hands.
Look, that
Where they're supposed to be defenders of this ummah.
yeah, that title obviously is the title for the king. Yeah, it's not like title of all the Saudis. And it's because it's there in his control. And before, the Ottoman Khalifas used that title because it was part of their realm, their authority. So whether he calls himself that or not, you don't need to call him that. I wouldn't call him Khadim al-Haramain, the servant of the two holy places. That's giving respect to them, to the king. Obviously, the people actually organizing Hajj are people underneath the state, and just like any other government, any other state, there's administrators who and you don't need to like attack them just because the government's bad. And people may argue that actually they administer Hajj quite well.
They do, to be fair.
I don't know. I haven't been Hajj. There's stampedes every other year. I don't know. Is that something which is? It's not funny, man.
Like you're making the point of now. Of course.
But as in, is it because of is it avoidable? I don't know. But if it's like not avoidable and actually it's quite, the number of this is minimized because of how well they organize it, then that comes down to the administrators there. The money comes from the top, of course. But does that now excuse them? The government of Saudi Arabia, the king, the royal family, it's an absolute monarchy. The royal family, does he excuse them now? Oh, well, at least they do Hajj right. I think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already responded to that in the Quran when Quraysh made a similar claim before. So the ayat from Surah At-Tawbah, I haven't memorized them. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم أجعلتم سقاية الحاج وعمارة المسجد الحرام كمن آمن بالله واليوم الآخر وجاهد في سبيل الله لا يستوون عند الله والله لا يهدي القوم الظالمين الذين آمنوا وهاجروا وجاهدوا في سبيل الله بأموالهم وأنفسهم أعظم درجة عند الله وأولئك هم الفائزون. The translation is, do you, i.e. the pagans and mushrikeen, talking to Quraysh, do you consider providing the pilgrims, because Hajj existed before Islam, consider providing the pilgrims with water and maintenance of the sacred mosque as equal to believing in Allah and the last day and struggling, this is talking about jihad, in the cause of Allah? They are not equal in Allah's sight, and Allah does not guide the wrongdoing people. Those who have believed, emigrated, and strived in the cause of Allah with their wealth and their lives are greater in rank in the sight of Allah. It is they who will triumph. So, when you put the guys who run Hajj on one side, normalizing relations with the ones who are fighting Mujahideen in Palestine, who's on the right side of history now? Who's greater in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And I don't think it's one of ambiguity, maybe not. It's because Hajj is like the only good thing they do. Because Hajj is the only major right thing they do, if you really think about it. Maybe Medina University as well. On the other hand, they are on the opposing side of the jihad in Palestine. Yeah. And the only reason why they funded or supported the jihad in Afghanistan and Chechnya was because the USA asked them to do it. And then they turned against the people who they sent over there. Obviously, we may have a different podcast on what the meanings of jihad are. We are talking strictly in terms of what Islam actually defines it, not what the media says it is. And it's very clear. The resistance, legitimate resistance against an occupying force. This is defensive jihad. And it's wajib. And they're literally on the opposite side. They are on the opposite side. If it wasn't because of the strength of public opinion, and 7th of October didn't happen, they would have normalized relations. And they're going to do it. They're going to do it because it's back on the table again. It's part of the American proposal to stop the conflict. So, no. Organizing Hajj, Quraysh organized Hajj. The Mushrikeen organized Hajj. That doesn't make you right.
Back to my weird analogy about the illegitimate child.
Right. Okay.
The thing I was trying to mention was Saudi being an illegitimate state because of the way they were brought up, and they were never the statement you made from Umar bin Khattab about what gave them honor was Islam. They will never have honor until they actually bring Islam back and start governing by Islam. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, obviously that applies to all of us. It's not just to Saudi Arabians. It's not just only to Arabs, it's to all Muslims. Is that Allah has raised us with the rank of Islam. We leave Islam, we become disgraced again. Because this is what gave us. This is what made us civilized. Islam is what made us civilized. And you see it now. What's going on right now in Saudi Arabia?
Too much stuff that you can't even mention. It's
Is
mini skirts and.
But it's not just them. We've got other Muslim countries, the ones who've been through this before. In the 20th century, Turkey went through this, Egypt went through this, Tunisia went through this. This liberalization.
And it comes from the top.
Yeah, it comes
from the top. Oh, subhanAllah. So when Umar bin Khattab did say Islam gave us honor, when you're talking about Arabia, the blaringly obvious thing is that they have a monarchy and that this is alien to Islam. How would they go about changing it? What would it look like if Saudi was to transition? How would it look like if Saudi were to transition to an Islamic state? Clearly they're not, you're saying. So what would it look like?
How does an individual transition from kafir to Muslim? It's through the shahada, right? It's through believing, adopting the aqeedah of Islam. There's a fundamental part to Islam, and then there are branch details. You can't say, well, I'm praying like the Muslims and I'm fasting like the Muslims, and therefore that doesn't make you Muslim. It's until you actually affirm the belief, until you declare it, that's what makes you Muslim. And then you do those actions. And
so in Saudi's case?
And some people sin. Muslims sin. That doesn't make them kafir. Not necessarily makes them kafir, right? So for the state, it's similar. A state and a government, there's a fundamental part to the state, and then there's branch laws. Usually it's written in the constitution. Not all governments do, but usually it is. From those fundamental issues, which violate the fundamental issues that violate Islam, is number one, that it is a member of the UN and a nation state, which means it completely it's stating this is a nation only for Saudis.
Violation of the Sharia,
because one of the principles of ruling in Islam is there cannot be two khalifas, there can't be two leaders for the Muslims. The Muslims are not allowed to be divided into more than one country anyway. There's no evidence at all allowing this. Even those who've allowed emirates, it's always like the emirate exists, but there's still a khalifa above the emirate. Yeah. So that's a clear violation of one of the principles, founding principles of Islam in ruling. Another violation of the principle of those founding principles is that the system is a system of khilafah. There is no evidence for any other system. It's the system Muhammad ﷺ used. The name is khilafah because it's after the Prophet ﷺ. And even beneath the khilafah, throughout history, other emirates and sultanates, they still mimicked the system of the khilafah itself. The Saudi system is a monarchy. It's an absolute monarchy. And we're not going to semantics, because there was in the past monarchies. No. In the past, there was a hereditary nomination of khalifas, but it was not an absolute monarchy.
Yeah, nothing like what you've got.
No. And the king's above the law.
Yeah.
In addition to the Sharia, I'm talking about the constitution, there's also royal decrees.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The Khalifa can't do that. The Khalifa is the absolute ruler underneath the Sharia. He's not above it. He can't do stuff extra. Because I said it's allowed. You have to justify it from the Sharia. This is another violation. From the principles or like the conditions of Dar al-Islam, for a realm to be Islamic, is one obviously is that the Sharia is sovereign. The Sharia is the only sole law which they pay lip service to. Let's accept that. Yeah. Even though it's just theoretical. Let's accept it.
Okay.
The other one is that the security and the authority is in the hands of the Muslims. But this is an American protectorate. There's American bases there. Not just there, it's in surrounding areas. They still have that petrodollar agreement in place. This is literally just a forward base for the USA. Even they say it, that there is protection before against Saddam, protection against Iran.
The US.
Yeah, the US.
So you're
Trump said it, you won't last 2 weeks without us.
So you're saying Saudi Arabia is Darul Kufr?
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
even though they house the Kaaba.
The Kaaba was there before Quraysh was ruling it. Muhammad was in Medina before he took Mecca. Was the Kaaba in Dar al-Kufr or was it Dar al-Islam? Dar al-Kufr, when Quraysh were ruling it. Dar al-Kufr, Dar al-Islam is a description of like the state in modern terms. It's not a description of the people or the place. So the system, the law, and the authority and control. It's a description of that, not the people. It's a Muslim land, Muslim people, but it's under American.
So Dar al-Islam is clear and Dar al-Kufr. Now, how to determine an Islamic state is still a bit unclear. Give us some principles, in summary, so we can easily determine what it is.
Okay, so Dar al-Islam, two conditions. The authority, so Dar al-Islam, two conditions. The law completely is Islam, and the security, the control, it belongs to the Muslims. Yeah, not a foreign power, not kuffar or anything.
And Saudi
like that.
violates that, yeah.
Cool. All Muslim countries violate one of the two or both. In the principles of ruling, within now, we have Dar Islam. We need to have. There's only one form of government in Islam. There's only one form of government which is valid. That is the Khilafah system, and it has four principles. The first one is kind of similar. These overlap, obviously. Is sovereignty belongs to the Sharia. Sovereignty means who is the lawmaker in within the country. That is the Sharia.
No one's above it.
No one's above it. There's no extra. Like some countries, they have like Sharia is one of the sources of law. No, this is the only one. Second is that authority belongs to the Ummah, and Islam is unique in that it separates sovereignty and authority. The West doesn't do that. Authority means who picks the ruler. Yeah, who? How does the guy in charge come to power? Is it just because he's part of a royal family? He's a one-party system, like he's a member of the party. Therefore, no. Authority belongs to the Ummah. The Ummah is who decides who the Khalifa is, either directly, impractical as that may be, but this is the principle. So it's always been done usually through Ahl Hal wa Aqd.
And we have a
representatives.
system.
Yeah,
and how to do
representatives of the Ummah. Yeah. As opposed to everyone getting involved.
And
But yeah, they represent the Ummah. That's the point. They don't represent a particular royal family or a particular party or a foreign power. They represent the Ummah. Third one is there can only be one Khalifa. You can't have many leaders, heads of state. You can't have multiple states. You can't have a federated state. There can only be one unitary state. Obviously, that unitary state will be administratively divided into provinces and wilayat and amalat and so on and so forth. The fourth principle is that in branch laws now, you're going to have differences of opinion between different fiqh madhahib as to what to choose, for example, and even sometimes in policies as well. What decision should we take?
Mm-hmm.
And everyone is entitled to their opinion. Every mujtahid is entitled to voice the fiqh opinion they believe in. Every madhab can put forward their opinion. But the one who resolves all of this, the one who has the right to choose one of these and make it law, is only the Khalifa. And this is how unity is observed. There's only one man. It doesn't delete the madahib, doesn't delete other opinions. It just says, while I'm in charge, this is the law.
Like we saw with the Ottomans, where they adopted a lot of the stuff from the Hanafi method.
Yeah. And Salah ad-Din was Shafi'i and so on and so forth. Yeah.
So sovereignty is for the Sharia, authority is for the Ummah, and this includes the Bay'ah process, right?
Absolutely.
The third one is that there's only one Khalifa. And the fourth one
state.
is that the Khalifa resolves the disputes. He adopts on these issues when there is a dispute. And as we've seen throughout our history with the Khilafah of Abu Bakr and Umar, they have the final say, in a sense.
Yeah, and there was obviously, there was this
That's pretty
agreement of ijtihad, yeah.
Drawing this podcast to a close, we are in the best days of the year, the first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah, the days of Hajj. Now, how can we use Hajj in these troublesome times to draw lessons from our reality?
So the first thing that would come to my mind is Hajj, Ibrahim alayhi salam. And Ibrahim alayhi salam means submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It really symbolizes that submission, sacrifice, and effort. Sacrifice, not just in terms of sacrificing like Ismail alayhi salam, but even energy, effort you have to put into Hajj. You're supposed to put into Hajj as opposed to going to a hotel and enjoying it there, paying a bit of money. Anyway, so the point is this: it's really that struggle for Islam, and really exerting yourself for the Deen, for the supremacy of the Deen. And we don't do it alone. Can't do it alone. We have to do it as an ummah. The ummah together has a mission. which Muhammad ﷺ has left for us to carry on after him. And that mission is to take Islam to the rest of the world, unified as an ummah. Hajj signifies that unity. It does. But we can't do that because we're not united. We can't do that even in Hajj, even in Mecca. We can't even use it as a forum to talk about this now. Yeah, fine, don't wave the Palestinian flag and what they call political symbols, that's fine. But even the Muslims talking to each other about the issue of Palestine, for example, because this is like the big thing right now, isn't it? These are the testing times. The Ummah has to come together. The Ummah has to put effort, has to exert effort, has to sacrifice in submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I think that's really what Hajj signifies. Not clock tower and the it's like a holiday now for some people. And the commercialization of it, it's almost like going back to the days of Quraysh again. Commercialization of Hajj. So I would say Hajj is the microcosm. That's the Ummah. The Ummah is 2 billion. You see all kinds of Muslims there. But the thing that makes us all the same Ummah is the submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala means that we have to get our act together. We can't take Islam to the rest of the world if our home itself is messed up, isn't it? And it's messed up why? Because we're divided into nation states. Because we're ruled by secular governments. Because everyone's looking at Palestine as it's some other country, another nation. The best we're going to do is help them become a new nation. We're not going to help them out like they're our people. So yeah, I would say Hajj, you can look at it pessimistically and say, oh, well, it's just become commercialized and you can't talk about Palestine there. And the Saudis have got this new thing, religious tourism going on. Or you can look at it positively, as in, but the Ummah still hasn't lost Islam. We are still going to Hajj. All of us are still going to Hajj. And we can still use it. We can still use it to talk about unity. The first point in any kind of change politically has to be intellectual. We have to normalize talk of unity. Because our enemies will always talk about division and disunity and promote people who will do that and help them have platforms. Sectarian, nationalistic, all of these. You got a good example going on now between Pakistan and Afghanistan. Nationalism. And that's deliberately supported and helped by governments like Saudi Arabia and Iran and so on and so forth.
There was a beautiful example I heard about Surah Al-Hajj, where Allah Azza wa Jal, He starts off the surah talking about Yawm al-Qiyamah, talking about earthquakes, talking about how pregnant women would have miscarriages and what, and the chaos surrounding it. And one Imam was describing the situation and he was saying, look, Allah Azza wa Jal is making this parallel with Yawm al-Qiyamah and Hajj. It's because there's going to be everyone's going to be frantic. But the key thing that I saw was that there was no difference between anyone. And that's why Allah Azza wa Jal is making that when you are in Hajj and the franticness of Hajj is similar to Yawm al-Qiyamah, but also you can see that there is no difference whatsoever. Now, when you're looking at our current times, when we are looking at Hajj, we see massive differentiation. We see massive disunity. It's going away from the essence of Hajj. And this is, I think, with this year specifically, where you see literally just a stone throw away in Palestine, you can see the disparity in the Ummah. Where Allah Azza wa Jal is showing us that, yes, I know Yawm al-Qiyamah is a gruesome scene, but this idea of Hajj where everyone coming together, that should be something where it unifies us. But in this year specifically, it seems like there's becoming a massive divide where on one side, like you were mentioning on the ayah, they're claiming that they are organizing Hajj, but really and truly, they got the blood of Muslims on their hands, whether it be Yemen, whether it be Palestine, whether it be Libya, but most specifically with Palestine. And on the back of that, like you're saying, that they might normalize with Israel really, really soon, is juxtaposing itself, how they are the custodians of the two holy mosques, how they are organizing Hajj, when on the other side, they are murdering Muslims. And the disunity is clear. But the amazing thing is, on Yawm al-Arafah, that day you see everyone literally come together. And this should be a wake-up call to the rulers and to the wider ummah, that the ummah comes together and unifies without no differentiation. They are coming together for ibadah of Allah Azza wa Jal. Now, when it comes to the situation of the Muslims, this should definitely give them a wake-up call and say, this is a time where we can unite without any differences. Why can't we do it here? So what's the MO?
The Hajj, which Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam did, the only one he did after prophethood, he gave the last sermon, the last khutbah, and in it he said, all of you are from Adam, addressing the Muslims, and Adam is from what? He's from dust. And he also mentioned that there is no difference between a white man and a black man, and an Arab and a non-Arab, except by taqwa. So here is, like to your point, the ummah is one. We are all the same in terms of we all come from Adam alayhi salam as humans, and there is no differentiating based on ethnicity, nationality, tribe, clan, so on and so forth. Nations. We are all one ummah. We are all one ummah. And this is really the MO. Hajj should mean this. And all these nation states, they do not mean this. They mean this nationality has rights other people don't have. That's what it means. And we see how refugees get treated in these countries. Yeah, so that's what we should take away. This is the final khutbah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave us.
Hajj is about unity, and it should be a wake-up call in our political reality.
Absolutely.
Jazakallah khair. And Jazakallahu khair for watching, and Eid Mubarak for when it comes. Remember the MO in your du'as, and especially remember the ummah in Palestine on the day of Arafah. Till next time, Assalamu alaikum.